Will the Canon EOS R1 have 8K video? Will it have a 45 megapixel sensor or less? According to the latest leak, the Canon EOS R1 might not be as feature-rich as expected. So stick around after this short message for all the details. But first, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest camera news. And for all the minor news stories, all those news stories not quite big enough to have their own separate video, follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter. In a bombshell post this morning, Canon Rumors says that the Canon EOS R1 will have less resolution than many think. So that means that the Canon EOS R5 isn't going to have 45 megapixels. It's not going to have 40 megapixels. It's not going to be anywhere close. And that's a shocker because for the past year or so, we've been told, we've been teased, we've been prodded, told us that the Canon EOS R1 is going to have a higher resolution, twice that, something similar to the Nikon Z9 around 45 megapixels. Some, including Mark, have even predicted that the Canon EOS R1 would go up to 60 or even 80 or 85 megapixels. And we did have that leak. Well, not really a leak. I didn't really, it was about 2 years ago, somebody came out and said that the Canon EOS R1 was going to have 85 megapixels. And I didn't believe it because at the time I kept telling everyone that the 1 series camera is all about sports or fast action photography, and that 85 megapixels didn't really make any sense. And even still, when Canon Rumors and maybe even the Camera Insider, but I know Canon Rumors started by saying that it would have around 45 megapixels or more, I was surprised by that. I was really surprised because when it comes to forecasting cameras, what we always tend to look at is who is the camera made for? And the Canon EOS R1 has always been made for sports and fast action photographers. So going to 85 or even 45 megapixels confused me, didn't make a lot of sense. I started wondering, is Canon changing the market that this camera is aimed for? And everything we'd seen over the last year was indicating that yes, the Canon EOS R1 is going to have at least 45 megapixels. And that's certainly not the case. And so 8K video? Well, Canon Rumors had this to say. We've seen hints over the past few months that the EOS R1 will not shoot 8K, which would put the resolution well below 45 megapixels of the Canon EOS R5. So no 8K video, no 45 megapixels. Does this mean that the Canon EOS R1 is going to have a similar resolution to that of the Canon EOS R3? Now the Canon EOS R3 is around 24 megapixels, the same as the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. In fact, the Canon EOS R6 Mark II has the same sensor with a few tweaks as the Canon EOS R3. That really changes things up a little bit. It kind of shifts our perspective back to what I said the target market of the Canon or the 1 series always has been, sports and fast action photographers. And that's got me a little bit, I don't know if the word is shocked or, well, it's kind of back to what I was expecting. But at this same point, I'm a little bit disappointed because I got excited that it's going to be better than the R5, than the 5 series in every way. And in this case, it would be better than the 5 series in video. Now, every other 1 series camera has been better than the 5 series when it comes to video. Oh, and in terms of date, well, it looks like what the Camera Insider said last weekend, well, it's been validated. Canon Rumors says that the Canon EOS R1 will come well before the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. We think it's safe to say to temper expectations for CP Plus in February, even if we had pushed it a little bit in the past. So there we go, validation of what the Camera Insider said, that the Canon EOS R5 is going to come in the second half. Now they said well after the Canon EOS R1. It doesn't mean September or October, although that could be the case. Recall that back in 2020 and around, July the 9th, we had the formal announcement by Canon of the R6 and the R5, and the R5 went on sale on July the 30th. So we could see the same thing this year, or they could make us wait until August or September. I know that's a huge disappointment for many of you that were really expecting CP Plus, but that's the thing when it comes to rumors and forecasting, is sometimes things aren't correct. We don't always get things right. But the big thing here, the really big thing is, what does this mean? Now, this is one thing that Canon Rumors didn't address in this story, and I've kind of hinted that at already. You see, the 1 series camera has always been a stills camera, a stills hybrid camera for sports shooters, for those shooting fast action, motocross, the Olympics, sports in general, water sports, all of it. And I think this story confirms that. Now, this is rated as a CR3 by Canon Rumors, and all those other stories about the R1 weren't. They were like a CR1, a CR2, or even a CR0. A CR3 means you can take that to the bank. You can consider that fact, that the Canon EOS R1 is still aimed at sports and fast action shooters, and everything about this camera is going to be built that way. So in terms of resolution, I do think it'll beat the Canon EOS R3. I don't know if Canon will take this camera past 32, 33, or even 30 megapixels, whether it'll be 24, but I get a sense that they're going to push it past 24 megapixels. And this is where I'm starting to get a little bit confused, because the Canon EOS R3, and I understand now why this camera is $1,000 less, because if the Canon EOS R1 has got a similar resolution to that of the Canon EOS R3, well, how will the R1 differentiate itself? Now, with 8K video and a 45 megapixel sensor, that's a huge differentiation. But with a similar resolution, with a stacked sensor, with all that kind of stuff, then we start to wonder, well, okay, how's it going to be better? Faster, stills, continuous shooting? Well, that's one thing, but you know, the R3 can already do 30 frames per second without any sort of rolling shutter, without any bending, without any negative outcomes. So the R1, I think they're going to push the resolution probably closer to 30 megapixels, and I think that would be a big win for those in that marketplace, because 24 and 20 with the 1DX Mark III is rather low resolution. But for others, seeing this as the best of the best of the best isn't going to be the case. And this is going to be a first for Canon. That's going to make the 5 series the best of the best when it comes to video. 8K video, and that leaves room open for the Canon EOS R5C Mark II. Because with previous rumors, with the Canon EOS R1 doing 8K video, 45 megapixels, stacked sensor, all that wonderful stuff and all the gravy and fixings that comes with it, the R5 Mark II almost didn't seem to make any sense. It's kind of like the Nikon Z7 Mark III in Nikon's current lineup, doesn't make any sense. But with the R1, sticking with its pedigree as being a sports and fast action camera, now that makes sense for the R5 and the R5C as a Mark II to live on and to flourish and to do very, very well. The only question is when we get the announcement of the Canon EOS R5, will we also get the announcement of the Canon EOS R5C Mark II? And I think that would make an awful lot of sense. Staging them a year apart doesn't make any sense, because if you are a video shooter like me, you want to see both cameras side by side. So, are you surprised? Are you shocked? Are you disappointed? Are you mad? Are you happy? Does the universe seem to make sense again? I got to admit, I'm a little bit surprised here, because for the past, 10, 15 years, or almost 20 years, the 1 series camera has always been better than the 5 series in every way. In stills, and when video was introduced into the lineup, well, the 1 series was always better than the 5 series in video. And at one point, we actually had a video-centric 1 series camera as well, to further emphasize that the 1 series was always going to be better if you were buying a stills hybrid camera. The 1 series was your place to go. Well, that's changed, at least if this is true, if what we're being told by Canon Rumors is true, that the 1 series camera is still a fast action sports camera, and it's not going to have a resolution anywhere near 40 or 45 megapixels. Instead, it's going to have a resolution somewhere around 24 to 32 megapixels. And if this was 2021 or even early 2022, we wouldn't be surprised, shocked, disappointed, elated, happy, or whatever emotion you're feeling right now, because, well, since 2021, we've had all these stories coming out saying it's going to be high resolution, at least 45 megapixels. And of course, we've had the Nikon Z8 and the Nikon Z8 both coming out at 45 megapixels. So it's got us kind of confused and shocked. And we also, and even myself here, I'm wondering today, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? Are we going to get another retraction a little bit later saying, okay, you know what? The Canon EOS R1 is going to be 45 megapixels. And I don't know. I'm a little bit surprised. I haven't had a whole lot of time to digest this, but the one thing that's clear and obvious out of this post from Canon Rumors is that the Canon EOS R1 is maintaining its market focus as a stills and hybrid fast action photography camera. That's its primary purpose. It's always been its primary purpose. And at least in this version, their first mirrorless version of the 1 series, their flagship camera, the Canon EOS R1 is going to continue to be that sports fast action photography camera. It's not going to be the master of everything. And that's the funny thing here, because we've heard about this for 2 years now, that the Canon EOS R1 is going to be the master of everything. And if this story is true, the Canon EOS R1 is no longer going to be the master of everything. And that leaves room in their lineup for the R5C Mark II and the R5 Mark II, no longer being overshadowed by the Canon EOS R1. And the other bit of good news is as well, that means we shouldn't expect a huge price increase in the camera. Now, my previous forecast was between $64.99 and $71.99, but in light of what we're hearing here, and without any other, leaked specifications, I'm going to lower that price range and say that we could see the price of the camera anywhere between $59.99 and $69.99. Now, that really depends on what else they bake into this camera, but if they're not pushing the resolution that much higher, well, what else are they going to do? The Canon EOS R3, I think, is a good baseline, and it just recently got dropped to, well, $1,000 less than $59.99 to $49.99. So they could come out at $64.99, keep the price the same, because remember, the Nikon Z9 with a higher resolution, 8K video, 60 frames per second, 45 megapixel resolution, that camera costs $54.99, $1,000 less than where the 1DX Mark III came out at. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here. Hopefully this does shake the rumor tree and we get some leaked specifications soon. Because one thing Canon Rumors did say is we're going to get a slow, long tease, and most likely what they mentioned in this previous article, or the one we're talking about today, is that we're probably going to get some sort of development announcement first, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if we get that sometime starting next week to CP+, because if you recall, going back 4 years to 2020, it was actually January the 6th that we got the development announcement for the Canon 1DX Mark III. Actually, no, we got the announcement for the 1DX Mark III on January the 6th. It was actually late October that we got the development announcement. So we are kind of overdue for information about the 1 series, the R1. With the Olympics, it's the Paris Olympics this year. They're happening on July the 26th. So really, we should start to get something very, very soon. All the pros, they're going to need to get their gear together. They're going to have to make purchases. They're going to have to do preparations and planning. So Canon can't drag this on too much longer. They're going to have to drop some sort of announcement, some sort of acknowledgement, and give us some information. And that's going to happen. That's going to have to happen pretty soon. So I don't think we're going to have to wait too long for some sort of teaser, some sort of development announcement. But in terms of when we're going to get the official announcement, when it's going to start shipping, I think it's safe to say, based on my previous article, that sometime in Q1 we're going to get the announcement, and sometime in Q2 it's going to start to ship. I just don't know when at this point, but as soon as I know, I'll let you know. So don't forget to subscribe and choose all notifications. Don't forget to follow me on X. And if you're interested in purchasing any camera gear that I talked about in this video, such as the Canon EOS R3, which is on sale for $1,000 off, the Canon EOS R5, which has a new price floor, that's $500 less than it was before, and it still goes on sale, then please consider using my affiliate links down below. These ones right here, I have them in the description for Adorama, B&H, and Amazon.com. But also don't forget to reach out to your local camera store. They love your business, and I also, believe it or not, most of the times I'm not using these links. I do shop at B&H, but I do support my local camera store as well. Patrick at Downtown Camera, for anybody shopping in Canada, his links are in the description down below. But thank you to everybody that has used my affiliate links. I get anywhere from 2 to 12% back as a commission, and that's greatly appreciated. It allows me to purchase new cameras such as the Canon EOS R5 Mark II and the Canon EOS R1. Well, that really depends on what this camera is going to be aimed at, because I'm not a sports and fast action photographer. I'm really curious. Based on 45 megapixels, 8K video and all that, I was lined up for the Canon EOS R1. Now I'm going to have to wait and see what the specifications are. And if I don't get the Canon EOS R1, that's good news, because it gives me more funding for lenses, because we're supposed to get a whole bunch of new lenses coming out this year. Well, at least that's what the previous rumors had said. So hopefully those are correct with some primes, with some super telephotos, and hopefully with a big Sigma announcement, although with changes to the Canon EOS R1, I'm beginning to wonder about that announcement as well. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.